We ran Melbourne. We could rock up anywhere, walk into the flower drum dressed in suits, and have the waiters light our cigarettes. We never paid for anything. We never did anything, but they were afraid of what we might do. When Les with his Sharpie gang was running Hawthorne, he described Q Club as the office. That was where all the activity was coordinated. Q Club could not be missed. One of Les' closest friends and fellow adventurers of his youth and early adult life, Stephen Ramshaw, was still at school. Les and Ramshaw hitchhiked up Prince's Highway to King's Cross. Not Les' first such trip. He knew the cheapest lodgings were at the People's Palace, but you had to keep the doors shut. We get to King's Cross, to the People's Palace, and I say to Steve, whatever you do, lock the door. People will be trying to push in. Anyway, halfway through the night, there was banging on the door, but we kept the door shut and stayed safe. Next day we went out and about in King's Cross, visited all the strip joints and so on. Steve's eyes were nearly popping out of his head, but I had seen it all before. Everywhere Steve and I went, we were popular. I remember going to the train station to buy tickets to go into the city. This young kid says, "You're Williams and Ramshaw," and he gave us our tickets. That young kid was De Pierre Domenico, later to become a famous Hawthorn footballer. Eventually they made it back to Melbourne alive and were dropped off at the Q Club at exactly the appointed 6 p.m. Les's adolescence coincided with the emergence of Sharpie gangs that flourished for a short time but quickly were subsumed by more disseminated Podgy and Widgie gangs. One night, when we were getting on the tram, me and Ramshaw, the Fitzroy boys turned up and said, "Have you got any money on you boys?" Steve quickly said, "Hang on now, I haven't got any money on me." I got king hit with a hell of a punch. It almost did for me. I could hardly get on the tram. Steve got me on the tram and home. When Mum saw me, she screamed. I knew something like this was going to happen. I waited low a couple of days, got everything together and said, things are going to have to change. I decided that if we were going to get out and about in the city, we had to have our own game together. So I got some guys from Camberwell High and Molloway College in Hamilton who had been together going to the Q Club, all big, tall, good at martial arts, and we got our own gang together. When we were in Sydney, we'd had our heads shaved real close. We had our Conti cardigans and so on. But things were changing. Freeman's security had taken over Q Club. They put suits on us, but they found the toughest blokes from Fitzroy, Abdul and all those blokes. I know for a fact they were not really wanted around Melbourne. That's when Alphonse, others and myself stopped going to Q Club. We just wanted to go out with our girlfriends, mainly to nightclubs. When we'd first started hanging around together and everyone was trying to push us around, I said, let's wear suits. My idea was to make us look like gangsters. We could carry starting pistols and look like young blokes with guns. We could fire a couple of shots in the air and be frightening. It worked, and we were getting around without having to fight or anything. It was a big sort of bluff, but as time went on, Alphonse went to another level and wanted to make real money out of gambling and drugs and everything seriously illegal.
Great.
Even when we were only kids, we'd had run-ins with the police. They were watching us all the time. Most were okay, but they were pretty heavy. One night they were cracking the shits with us for something. They lifted the car up and tipped it on its side, and I said, "And now you can bloody lift it back again." And they did. They did it as a joke, but they were trying to be heavy on me. I get along all right with the coppers. At the stage when we were all going to the Q Club, we had trouble around Hawthorn from a couple of kids who thought they were really tough. They were brothers, one especially starting to stand over the other kids. They were fighting with Evan, and I said to him, "Don't worry about it, I'll fix it." I rocked up to the pool room. My friend Peter was there with his big muscles standing around, but I grabbed the tough brother and pushed him down the stairs and out onto the street. A passing tram driver saw us and pulled us apart. It was a good thing because he was too strong for me, and I would have been beaten up. There was no way you could win a fight with that boy. One day, Evan came over to my joint. "I need a lend of your dad's plane." I didn't know what he wanted it for, but he had 2 of his dad's rifles with him. He had cut them in half, then he planed them down. He was going to Fitzroy. He had girls with him. They used to stay at his place and go out together. He made them carry the guns in their handbags, so he would not get caught carrying them. It was within just a matter of weeks that he lent one of these guns to Bloody P, the tougher of the brothers. That's when I told Evan, the way things are going, someone's going to get killed. Within 24 hours it was all over the news, and I knew who it would have been when they described it. A couple of days later, they arrested the brother and put him in jail for years. He was 15 at the time. A search of court records revealed, as Les had reported, that the source of the guns was never revealed. Les was cautioned by police on a number of occasions, the most serious when he was actually quite innocent of any wrongdoing. The big hassle was with a stereo a mate had come up with. It was just before my wedding. I came home from training and my mum was in tears. "The police have been here and they've taken the new stereo." They'd left everything else and just said I'd received stolen goods. They said, "If you promise not to hang around with these guys again, we won't charge you." I said, "No worries," but they were all coming to my wedding.